All right, it seems like we're back. This supposedly urgent press briefing with Kayleigh McEnany was scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern time, which was 45 minutes ago. And then it was rescheduled to 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is 15 minutes from now. So I'm back. Hopefully there won't be another delay. Honestly, I don't know how urgent this really is. I mean, I think the urgency is that Donald Trump is hugely, hugely failing. He's fired his campaign manager, but tried to make it seem like everything's fine. He's got 36% approval in a recent Quinnipiac poll. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what the urgency is or what's going to be going on, but there seems to be renewed interest in what is coming out of this administration over the last few days. I don't know what is causing it, but the interest in the streams of these Trump administration events has been off the charts recently. On Tuesday, I believe my stream across all platforms had 41,000 live viewers. I haven't even done anything yet. And across platforms, we're already at 4,000 right now. And I mean, nothing's even happened yet. So something seems to be going on where people want answers. People want to hear, like, does this administration have any plan? And I have a big story coming up tomorrow on the show, which I kind of go into on today's podcast a little bit, which is, and in fact, I tweeted about it. Let me see if I can find it here. It was this morning that I tweeted about it. Here it is. People need to realize Trump is out of time to win re-election by dealing with coronavirus. It takes 8 to 10 weeks to flatten the curve of cases, another 3 weeks for deaths. His only options are dirty tricks, and it's about to get insane. So let's just look at New York as an example, because New York was one of the big early hotspots. I don't remember exactly when New York locked down, but I think it was around this area. And what you can see is when the lockdown started in mid to late March, cases continued going up for 2 weeks. They plateaued for about 10 days, then came down. And the cases only got to a reasonable level about 2.5 months after the lockdown started, right? So we're now on July 16th. If these states, like, just to take an example, and I'll pick Florida because we're going to get, wow, Florida, 14,000 more cases today. Unbelievable. If you look at Florida's curve, they're not even at their peak, but imagine that they lock down today and we immediately got over the peak. It takes 2 weeks to get to the peak when you lock down. We're already looking at October before the cases get under control in Florida. The deaths lag the cases usually by 14 to 20 days, depends on, a number of different factors. So if Florida was willing to fully lock down today, we would be getting it under control in Florida around Election Day. But Florida doesn't seem willing to actually lock down. So, the point is, the idea of Trump seeing the virus under control by Election Day as his path to victory, it's mathematically an impossibility. It's just not going to happen. And so dirty tricks are what we're going to expect. Now, just briefly, a couple of different things. One, remember this guy, Kevin's tit? This is the governor of Oklahoma. And he posted in mid-March when some reasonable states were closing down. He posted bragging about how he was out at a restaurant, eating with my kids and all my fellow Oklahomans at the collective OKC. It's packed tonight. Very, very big party happening there. Sadly, Governor Kevin's tit has contracted the coronavirus, as Mike Pence calls it. Oklahoma Governor Kevin's tit announces he has tested positive for coronavirus. Oklahoma Governor Kevin's tit, who has aggressively pushed to reopen his state and flouted health experts' health recommendations, announced Wednesday that he is the first governor to test positive for coronavirus. He's leading. He has taken the initiative of becoming the first governor to get coronavirus. And he said he feels fine other than being a little bit achy. He did a press conference while positive for coronavirus. Okay. He'll be quarantining and working from home. And he was pretty shocked to be the first governor to get the virus. I want to use my story to remind Oklahomans that if you aren't feeling well, we want you to get tested. Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't realize that was what you want to do. So that's what's going on with Governor Kevin's tit. And, listen, real party. And now he has coronavirus. So there he is, real patriot, being the first to take on the coronavirus. Let me say thank you to Mike Tango Bravo, who has signed up on my website, joinpacman.com, and Ryan Scholl, who is new member number 2 today. Also, Changun Lim is new member number 3 today at joinpacman.com. I'll say a little bit more about that coming up a little bit later. Super chats are starting to come in as we wait for Kayleigh McEnany. Adam White says, excited to see today's dumpster fire. I'm going to go make popcorn. Please do. Ryan Gilnack says, David, if you could voice any cartoon character, who would it be? It's a good question. I don't know. Who would I'd have to think about that. I don't have any hot take on that. Jan Kaltwasser says, keep up the good work, David. Greetings from Germany. You and your audience, proof that U.S. is not completely lost yet. Yeah. GPBK says, New York City lockdown on March 20. Okay. All right. So my estimate was close. James Hileppo says, I'm worried about not having results on election night. More Republicans will vote in person. His followers will cry rigging if it takes days to swing Biden. Yeah, I have a big story about, there's a good Rolling Stone article by Adam Kroll about that, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. Zachary Etzioni says, can you please debate Ben Shapiro again? Gladly. He's ignoring my emails, so it's up to him. Elias Chavarria says in Spanish, ¿Por qué no haces videos en español? I've thought about doing Spanish videos. We went back and forth. There's a lot of different considerations and things to think about. But, most of my audience on my main channel doesn't speak Spanish. So I'd really have to start a new channel and I'm building it from scratch. Why would I do that when this channel's going so well? So there's a lot of questions around that. Dan McCord says, welcome back, David. The longer those denying the seriousness of the virus, the more it will strongly negatively affect our country. You want to see somebody denying the seriousness? What's this lunatic's name? This is Florida State Rep Anthony Sabatini. He's insisting everything's fine in Florida. Florida has hit 3 new single-day death records, most recently today. Here is Anthony Sabatini disgracing the Sabatini last name. There's this great retired Argentinian tennis player, Gabby Sabatini, and I assume she's cringing when she sees this. Take a look.
A lot of folks in the media have done, which is harped exclusively on one metric, namely the
Oh, hold on. That's very low. Let me add a little bit of power to that. Here we go.
cases. The media is almost exclusively focused on this one number versus the 2 most important numbers, obviously, hospitalizations and fatalities.
Now, remember, deaths are up in Florida. There was a record today. There was a record 2 days ago. This guy's living in a fantasy world.
Where in most parts of the states, flatlined or gone down, especially in mine. And so if we focus on the 2 more relevant metrics, Florida's doing just fine.
Wrong.
Okay, we focus on case positivity, and we just did a report on the metrics that you cited. Perhaps you didn't hear it.
What a nasty reporter.
But you've had actually in Leon County a circuit judge who said, and look, we checked, Representative, we checked.
Yeah, I wouldn't be using the term flatlined when you're talking about a virus and people dying.
With constitutional experts who said, and this is what the court judge said, and this is what the circuit judge said, and constitutional experts agree with this. The ordinance, because you lost in Leon County, the ordinance has a, quote, valid basis to protect public health because, I mean, you talk about this being an extraordinary circumstance, but we are in an extraordinary circumstance. We're in a pandemic.
Right.
And Florida's not doing just fine.
No, they are. But on the judge issue, there's about 800 circuit court judges in the state of Florida.
You think Florida's doing fine right now?
It's the epicenter of the global. It's the global epicenter at this point. Miami specifically could be one of the worst places in the world to be.
Absolutely. I think the governor's response has been on point, and I think
that arguably one of the worst responses in the world from Governor Ron Death Santis, as he's increasingly being known.
The metrics that matter the most, we're doing very well. And if you're counting cases, you're going to scare people. But
record deaths, my friend.
What they don't realize is cases are
deaths.
Far less.
4,521. Total cases, 301,000.
Last week in Florida,
hospitalizations increasing, 19,334. 54 hospitals.
We laugh to avoid crying.
ICUs have reached capacity in Florida. Another 40 hospitals show that ICUs are at 10% or less availability.
Well, let me remind you.
You say you're doing fine?
we're the nation's third largest state. So out of the 70,000 new cases we had last week, we had about 100 more people.
The point is the growth rate. It's 3 records a week. If you keep setting records every single week, come on, guys. Is he really that stupid?
Go to the hospital. That is a extremely small number when you're looking at the fact that we have 21.5 million people. Certainly not the sort of numbers that would drive people to shut down the economy.
Sir, you're the epicenter of a global pandemic, and you can't even admit that?
That's actually a false assessment entirely.
Right.
I don't even know what you mean by epicenter.
Well, that's the problem. They lack the vocabulary to even discuss what's going on. So that's one guy in Florida who is just just living in make-believe, pretend everything's fine. We're doing just fine here. Let me say thank you to Dick Jackson, who has subscribed with Twitch Prime and has sent me the message, Deepak PogChamp, Deepak PogChamp, Deepak PogChamp, Deepak PogChamp, etc., etc. I'm not going to read the entire thing. We do have the belief that this is really going to be the press briefing at the top of the hour. There was a false start earlier. Let me say thank you to a few folks like David Lara, who's new member number 4 today on my website. Luis Lopez is new member number 5. Travis Culloden is new member number 6. And Lars Henrik Krogh is new member number 7 today on my website. I'm going to have a secret coupon code for you guys momentarily. A few other super chats are continuing to come in. Let me see where I left off. Javi Rodriguez says, if a SCOTUS seat is vacated before November, what BS argument could McConnell make to fill it without being a hypocrite? He'll be a hypocrite, but he'll fill it. That's the reality. When Obama nominated Merrick Garland, McConnell said, well, it's the president's last year. We should wait until the next person before we fill the seat. Now you could make the exact same argument about Trump. But McConnell will come up with something. And of course, all that really matters is if it's a Republican nominee, then Republicans in the Senate will fill the position. If it's a Democratic nominee, then they won't. That's all it is. It's complete and total hypocrisy. Alex Kepke says, do you remember the time Trump scheduled an emergency press conference to talk trash about Joe Biden? Good times. I do remember. Blown High Spot says, hey, David, how long until Trump and company just start wearing advertisements on their clothes like NASCAR? Well, I think they should, in the sense that I would love to know who is funding them in many cases and what financial motivations there are for policy that they're putting out there. But no, I understand what you're saying. Elkis says, how serious is the coronavirus for your channel? YouTube channels cannot spread coronavirus, fortunately. If you're talking about how the channel is doing, at the beginning of the virus, the YouTube channel was actually hit pretty hard. It's actually doing well lately, and we've been picking up anywhere from 1 to 4,000 new YouTube subscribers a day, which is absolutely off the wall. Twitch isn't doing so poorly. We surpassed 38,000 followers there and kind of approaching 40,000. So I think that there's just a lot of people staying home. Or out of their normal routine. And initially, like people who normally listen to my podcast on the way to work, they were no longer going to work. So we saw numbers kind of go down initially as people were out of their routine. We've been in this 5 months now. So now I think people are building new routines, and the streams and the clips and the podcasts are part of it. So we're seeing, from the standpoint of audience, the last month has actually been going really well. Glenn B says, greetings from Tasmania. Look at how we've crushed the virus. Unbelievable stuff there. Oh, my friend Azim Abu Khalil is here. He's been around the streams for a while. Does health organizations' encouragement of BLM protests, though infinitely more legitimate than protests conducted by Trumpists, denote hypocrisy or a dangerous lapse in judgment on their part? I don't know about that. Here's what I've said from the beginning. The virus doesn't care why you're protesting. The virus doesn't pick political sides. The virus is apolitical. When you make masks political, you will then start to see a difference between a protest against masks and lockdowns where no one is wearing a mask versus a protest against police brutality where most people are wearing masks. You'll see a difference between outdoor events and a rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where everybody's indoors with no masks. So it's not about politics. It's about the fact that you can find people without a mask at the anti-police brutality protest, but most people were wearing masks. That's the difference. It's not. It happens to align with politics, but it is not in any way political. Now, that being said, there were probably people being hypocritical, I'm sure, and I'm trying not to do that myself, and I don't think I have been. I've been very clear. The virus doesn't care about political ideology. The virus cares about whether you're wearing a mask. Are you outdoors or indoors? Etc. I think you sort of get the gist. Randy from Twitch has subscribed with Prime and says, do you think Canada should open schools when our daily numbers range from 200 to 400 cases daily as a country of 37 million with deaths of under 20 daily? I would just go by the health experts. I know what the point you're making, which is Canada as a country is doing about as well as some of the better individual states in the United States. It's just, I don't want to perpetuate the idea of people who aren't qualified giving advice. So I would go to the health experts. And we have a Canadian doctor who's been on the show a bunch of times, infectious disease specialist, Isaac Bogosh from the University of Toronto Hospital or Medical Center. He will be back on soon, and I'll ask him what he thinks. My opinion is irrelevant, quite frankly. JR says, David, how is this happening? Bans on mask mandates, Goya beans, CDC versus HHS, school openings, Fauci bashing. Like the virus, stupidity and lack of common sense runs rampant and unchecked. In the meantime, people are dying. November feels too far off. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I don't know if you saw recently, Ivanka was caught holding a can of Goya beans, but actually she was also caught holding my head, which is crazy. Can you imagine? It's so sick for a government official to be promoting alternatives to corporate media like the David Pakman Show. And as soon as I saw that she was doing this, we immediately got authorities involved. I offered to turn myself in to federal or local authorities. And this can't be allowed. She's in a position of power and privilege. And this is just not, you shouldn't see this. You really shouldn't see this. This is very, very ugly. Of course, it's not real, guys. She didn't sever my head and hold it up. I see people asking whether this is real. Real in what sense? That's really my face. Is this real? Can you imagine? Yeah. Someone sent my head to DC. Okay. We are standing by for Kayleigh McEnany's press briefing. I'm just going to refresh once because sometimes the live feed doesn't get picked up. There we go. Okay, I think we're still doing okay. Thanks to Dem0Cool for subscribing on Twitch, as well as Milky Snow and X Holiday CSX. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It is interesting that the press briefings and public events seem to be accelerating. You get the sense that the Trump administration feels that they need to do something and they need to be out there in front of cameras, except every time they do it, they do more self-inflicted damage. And so that is definitely, they sense that they need to do something. They just keep doing the wrong things and keep digging a deeper and deeper hole, which is incredible. Let me very briefly say that I so appreciate everybody who's been signing up on my website for the last few days. In early July, we had 300 membership cancellations. It was a big hole that we had to start digging out of. And it's because of coronavirus. I had dozens of people email me and say, David, I signed up in July 2019. I should be renewing. I just can't afford it, essentially was the message. And I am completely sympathetic to that. So I really appreciate that folks have been signing up. And the streams, the podcast, it's all going to continue. But there's a lot of folks who are having to bail on supporting us, and I totally get that. So if you're in a position where you can grab a membership at joinpakman.com, I very much appreciate it. And I have a very special announcement. I know I've been mentioning this code 2020 now, which is a beautiful discount off of memberships. I'm going to give you right now a different discount code. This is a secret discount code, okay? The code is July Surprise. July Surprise. Use that code. It's not printed anywhere. You just have to understand how to spell these two words, July Surprise with no space. You will get an even more surprising discount off of any membership at joinpakman.com. And I'll thank people who sign up. Like, for example, Dalis Tevos Dallas Tivos. Man, I don't know. You're new member number 8. Lee Cole is new member number 9. Ben Isaacson is new member number 10. Jenny St. Clair is new member number 11. And Mike Moyer is number 12. And I've got Daniel Grabowski at number 13 and Ryan Gilnack at number 14. July Surprise is the coupon code. And it is this coupon code. Let me put it this way. This guy right here, Governor Kevin's tit, he was stupid enough to brag about being at restaurants during coronavirus when other states were shut down. Now he has the virus. Even Kevin's tit would be smart enough to realize July Surprise is just, I mean, it's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. What am I talking about, by the way? Okay, let's go to some other super chats coming in. David Belsky says, please don't ever again title one of your videos Trump collapses unless he literally, physically collapses. That I'd want to see. See, I don't agree with that. I don't want anybody to get coronavirus. I don't want anybody to get sick. I just want Trump to lose, and I want to deal with coronavirus. I don't need Trump to get physically ill. I'd never wish that on anybody. The Luck Hunter says, come to your show from our vineyard in Mendoza. You can get in here at least, talk wine, crypto, and cover the election. So, as some of you know, I was born in Argentina, and I was born in the city of Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. But the summer before, when I was down visiting family in Buenos Aires, I took a side trip to Mendoza. Mendoza is a fantastic wine region of Argentina, sort of in the foothills of the Andes. Rented a car, went to a bunch of different vineyards, had some amazing wine lunches, including at just a bunch of different amazing places. Went to 2 Francis Mallmann restaurants in Mendoza. 1884 is one that is just incredible restaurant. Also went to Oregano, as we would say in the United States, another restaurant of Francis Mallmann's. And it's just an amazing place. I would love to be back in Mendoza. Now, that being said, Argentina is not doing so great as far as the virus goes, although I think most of the problem is in the Buenos Aires area, including the province. Mendoza is probably doing fine. Oh, not only that, there's no flights down to Argentina, right? As Lord Bucketface is pointing out. I am a citizen of Argentina, although my passport currently is expired. But, when I go in, I have a U.S. passport that says born in Argentina, and I can go in the local passport line. So my instinct is I would be allowed into the country if I could get a flight down there. Yeah. So that's something, that we have to look at. Okay, Johnny Z Irish. But by the way, Luck Hunters, please get in touch with me by email, because if you do have a vineyard down in Mendoza, whenever the next time is that I'm down there, I would love to visit your vineyard. I've visited 5 or 6 vineyards in the area, and it's a magical place. The views of the Andes, I have pictures on my Instagram of it, and it's going to be great someday. Dan McCord says, no one is talking about the fact that over 99% of the U.S. population has yet to get COVID-19, or Trump COVID-20, as some of us are calling it. This is just the beginning. It is just the beginning. That's true. Welcome if you're just joining us. We are 8 minutes late. We're actually 68 minutes late. This was originally scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific. It was then delayed by an hour, and we are now another 8 minutes late. And my sense is there may not be that much news broken. But if you are just joining, I do appreciate everybody who's been watching the streams. Remember that if you're watching on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe button. It costs absolutely nothing. I consider it a privilege every time somebody subscribes. If you're watching on Twitch, you can also hit the follow button to be notified of future disinformation propaganda streams. Karen says, hello from Ireland, David. Right now, myself and other Europeans are separated from our loved ones. I haven't seen my husband in 7 months, waiting on a visa. Your streams help me know what's going on. Thank you, Karen. That doesn't sound like a good situation, but I appreciate the kind words. Jason the X says, Kayleigh hears a keyword. She immediately goes to the binder and frantically searches for her talking point. She's just a parrot. Title is misspelled. The title of what? The title for this stream? Is that right? Let me see. Update titles. Trump press secretary. Oh my goodness, it is misspelled. Let me fix that. That is embarrassing. Kayleigh McEnany, urgent press briefing. Let me update. Okay, we have updated that. And let's see. Okay, Twitch is updated. Hopefully YouTube is updated as well. We were probably missing out on some viewers who saw her name misspelled and furiously chose, like the Fox News stream or something like that, if you can imagine. Okay, Blown High Spot has subscribed on YouTube. Other super chats are coming in. Where did I leave off here? Where are we? Oh my goodness. Vaclav Miller says, do you have an opinion on the UK's coronavirus response? I really don't. I've only closely been following the response in the US and the response in Argentina, really. So I think there's people who are much better positioned to comment on the UK response than I am. Per Tiran says, Kayleigh is a ball buster, especially pompous ones. Love it. Hardcore FPS says, you make me moist. Oh my goodness. Things are getting very, very racy in the chat. Zachary Prakowski says, title typo. Okay, we fixed it. Green Party Trevor says, urgent, why don't you raid other Twitch streamers when you're done streaming? Also, hope you make an official Discord server. So there's an unofficial Discord server. I'm probably not going to get too involved in Discord at this time. We do have an official subreddit, davidpakman.com/reddit. And I should do more raiding. A lot of the issue is that, let me see, most of the people I follow aren't streaming when I wrap up my streams. Let's see who's streaming right now that I follow that we could maybe raid.
Coming out. Let's talk about
Oh my God. Things are starting to play. Let me see here. Who could we raid today? Hassan Destiny Piker II is streaming right now. Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bonnell II is streaming right now. And Sam Cedar is streaming. Of the people that I follow, that's really it right now. Yeah, I could potentially look at raiding one of them. I'll look at that and we'll have an answer for you on that soon. Something I could do. Yeah, I should raid Hassan. I'm worried that Hassan may not be super pleased with me because actually I don't know why, but a few weeks ago when I was streaming, I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, let's do a thing." And he didn't even write back, which was it was shade. So I hope things are okay with Hassan. I've not taken any side on Hassan versus Destiny, and I don't plan to. But yeah, maybe we'll do a little Hassan rating action after today's stream. Sharpie Diesel says, did you see my question in the last chat about the floods? Why is no one reporting? I didn't see it. No, I'll look into that. I'll look into that. Waller is me says, I predict cases and death numbers slowly going down, and any states crying foul will be, quote, Democrat states who can be denounced as fake news. Any effect on the election if Trump is able to control numbers? Well, that's the goal. They now are they now are taking control of the data and the data, really both. And I expect that we will be increasingly unable to trust the numbers that we're getting, as if we were already able, as if we could trust them already. You know, Florida was caught hiding numbers months ago. Thanks to Gary Cunningham and my Thriving Treehouse for signing up. Matt Chavez says, register and vote Biden. Do not become complacent. T Love says, have you ever thought about being on CNN? I would love to watch you there. I actually have been on CNN. Let's see if I can find it. I was on with Aaron Burnett. David Pakman, Aaron Burnett. Let's see if I can find it. I'm actually having trouble finding the clip. That's interesting. I think it might be on my own website, davidpakman.com/press, maybe. CNN. I don't even remember what year it was. It was a long time ago. I'm not really ripe for CNN necessarily, but I have been on before. I think I was on a couple times on CNN, but I'm struggling to find it. Let me see. Here it is. Let me see here. Actually, I don't even know if they have the video up still. Let's take a look. This was my big CNN appearance. Let's see here. No, it doesn't look like my video is still even here. Yeah, I'm going to have to look around for that. I think it may be. I don't think I'm in this video. Let me see. Oh, no, this is something totally different. Yeah, I've been on CNN. Anyway, I'll look for that. Maybe I'll have that for an upcoming stream. But I have been on CNN. I've been on Fox. I think I've never been on MSNBC, if I recall correctly. David Adams says Georgia governor overruled city and county mask requirements. Yeah, so Georgia's out of control, completely out of control. And I'm starting to see Georgia cities and towns put in place mask mandates. And Brian Kemp, the completely disgusting, depraved, delusional, and doofy, a little alliteration there, Georgia governor, he is saying all mask mandates are null and void. And, you know, people will die because of that. There's no doubt about it. Somebody is going to die as a result of that. Sebastian Boulis says, what do you think about the Patriots playing games with 1/5 capacity? Would you go? You know, I'm basically done with the phase in my life where I go to in-person sporting events. It's just a shit show. I don't want to sit in traffic on the way there. I don't want to sit in traffic on the way back. I don't want, you know, somebody's knees on my back. I don't want people spilling beer on me. I have a better view from home, so I have no plan to go to a Patriots game, whether it's 1/5 capacity or 6/5 capacity or whatever. I'll watch on TV. I'll have my grill. I'll have, you know, all of that stuff. I'll have my Allagash whites and all of that. And I just don't, I do it with 1/5 capacity, do it with nobody. I don't care. Have at it, Haas, is my point of view. GR says, DZ, why you don't buy me Reeboks no more? Oh boy, I hope that user is not having a medical incident. Semi-truck driver says, any thoughts on the Republican Party having their convention outdoors in Jacksonville, Florida, August heat? Seems like a bad idea. It all seems like a bad idea. It seems like a disastrous idea. Eric Foreman says, I can't believe we're arguing science in 2020. It's insane. Yeah, it is what it is. Let me say thank you to AC Warsing, Mizingtai, Charlie Poo, Axon, Quilarian, all of whom have signed up with Twitch Prime or real Twitch subscriptions at twitch.tv/David Pakman. We're standing by for Kayleigh McEnany. It is now 1 hour and 17 minutes past when this was originally scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern, rescheduled for 2 p.m. Eastern, and it's now 2:18 p.m. Eastern. Now, I'm getting a bunch of text messages. I wonder if it's been rescheduled. Nothing so far. It looks like we're still on track here. But does anybody know if there's a stream that... Right, it's an urgent press briefing, delayed 90 minutes almost. Is anybody live in the room right now? Does anybody know if, like, maybe Now This or Washington Post or somebody is live in the room? Because that usually gives us a sense of how close we are to the start of it. Let me see here. Not seeing anything in the immediate. Oh, you see reporters in there. So tell me, can somebody tell me which stream is currently showing a live shot of the room? Now This News. Okay. Now This press briefing. Let's get a better shot for you guys. I want to bring you the best possible shot.
The difference between imagining the future and...
This is getting crazy. I think I've almost got it. Here it is. We may just have to sit through a brief ad. Yeah, and we'll just a few seconds. That'll be good. I think once we see what's happening in the room, we'll be able to very clearly tell how close we are to the start of this. And here we go. Oh, this is a different shot than I'm used to. It looks like the room is relatively full, so they probably are going to start somewhat soon. Yeah, this is good. We'll stick with this for the time being. That's good. Welcome to the 10,000 of you that are watching on YouTube, the 1,000 of you watching on Twitch, the 1,200 of you watching on Facebook, and I never know how many people are watching this on Twitter. Just out of curiosity, let me take a look. It's usually not good. Twitter does not like these press briefings. 78 of you, okay. How do we have 10,000 viewers on YouTube and 78 on Twitter? That seems out of sync. That's interesting. Super chats continue to come in. Madeline Welsh says, David, I know you've talked about Linda Sarsour before, but I would love one of your longer analysis videos about anti-Semitism and progressive media because there seems to be a blind spot. Yeah, you know, to be totally transparent, it's like I've dealt with left-wing anti-Semitism before, and my audience doesn't really seem to love it, and it often divides my audience, and I just don't know to what degree it makes sense for me to be harping on that. But yeah, I mean, it's a topic that's interesting to me for sure. And Heck says, si es Pac-Man, tiene que ser bueno. If it's Pac-Man, it must be good. Yes, reminiscent of Ivanka's tweet with a can of Goya beans, which has been modified to have her manipulating my cranium, as you can see here. Yeah. If it's I like that. That's a beautiful sentiment. Giovanni Trumbo says, please don't pause or mute the feed to talk. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, there are countless streams where people can watch these press briefings. This is this stream. Okay, this is the Fox News stream. This is the White House stream. So my thing is, when something outrageous is said during these events, I will mute and I will talk over it. And every time it happens, a few people don't like it. And there's plenty of other streams for people to watch, right? If I'm just going to sit here totally silently, there's no way to fact check everything after the fact. What am I really adding? I'm adding nothing. I'm not pulling myself up by the bootstraps and creating any value. So if you want to watch with me, that's great, but I might interject every once in a while. There's no shortage of places you can watch if you want me to just quiet the entire time, want me to sit quietly the entire time. So that's my disclaimer as far as that goes, okay? Michael sends a super chat. Troy Baker says, should President Biden create a Department of Technology, maybe Yang for secretary? I am not putting the cart before the horse on anything with Biden, okay? First, Biden's got to win. Then we'll figure out what departments Joe Biden needs to create. That's my idea. Dak says, what's the significance of the Republican Party registering a record number of Republican voters? Also, have you seen the report from the shady GAI about voter fraud? I have not. Listen, both parties are registering a lot of people. We'll see who registers more. We're going to find out very, very soon. Syed Ahmad says, whoops, that scrolled past. Where did that go? Do you think a Donald Trump that was checked when he was younger and actually suffered consequences would have led to a more humble, less crazy person? Yes. It's revisionist history, I know, but curious what you think. For sure. I mean, Trump, you know, especially the allegations made in Mary Trump's book, much of Trump's personality is perfectly in line with the allegations that she makes about Trump's upbringing and the verbal abuse and the seeing his dad never apologize to anyone for anything, et cetera, et cetera. So that, yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely the case. Drew Bayodi Biswas says, hi from India. Keep up the good work. Love your content. We are in the same sinking boat in terms of national politics. Best of luck. Yeah, India, Brazil, Russia, also along with the U.S. in major, major trouble. Big trouble. Phoenix 503 says the Trump presidency should be used as an example when explaining the importance of voting. Hit the like button for David. Love the show. Yeah, we have 11,000 viewers on YouTube and only 1,100 likes. That's really low energy. I don't like that. I do want to say thanks to Steven627 for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Dat Bayo has subscribed with Prime. Hourglass420 and Traumicus have subscribed with Prime. Pittsburgh Handy and Wajix have subscribed with Prime, which I very much appreciate. John Coley says, aside from the State of the Union, when do presidents feel the need to convince us they're doing a good job? It should be obvious. Well, I mean, campaigns, right? Every re-election campaign, the president has to make the case that they deserve another 4 years. Fox Janssen says, wasn't this their tactic last election? Just keep talking and see what sticks. To a degree. Sean M says, David, are you bigly philanthropic? You know, I don't really talk too much about my philanthropy, both in terms of dollars and volunteer time, because I find it to be much like the Bible is for Trump. I find it to be a very personal thing, but I'm actually being serious, whereas Trump just doesn't know anything about the Bible. Luis Lopez says, thanks for being a truthful news outlet for us all. Give a shout out to Jennifer for me. Jennifer, you are being shouted out. Thank you so much. Per Tiran says, I guess McEnany holds 67 sec of talk. Get questions for frantically, go through her binder and find some non-relevated answers. You know, I want to explore. Per is our good friend from Sweden, and I never know whether he is using some kind of translation tool. Let's just see what happens from Swedish. If I go to translate.google.com, if I type that in, that's English. If I translate that to Swedish, let's just see what we get. And then I'm going to translate it back, okay? Translate to Swedish. Okay, now I'm going to take all this. How do I copy this? Oh, there we go. Oh my God, huge copy and paste problems here. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to reverse.
Is that still for briefing or is that for the fourth?
Okay, I don't know what's going on. It's not working, but it sounds like something is starting here, right? Ah, we're back in the room here. That didn't work. Okay, we're in the room. We're going to abandon that idea. But Per, I love it. I don't know what you're talking about, but you're a genius, my friend, and I so appreciate your support. John North says, David, just thanks for what you do. Dream Hollow says, even if Trump's administration alters the numbers, states will still be reporting on ICU capacity and death toll. He can't hide that. That's exactly my hope. That's exactly my hope. Adam White says, dang it, finished my popcorn. Guess I need a spread. Maybe I'll break out some bagels and lox. Homemade, of course. Homemade lox or homemade bagels? I would love to be smoking salmon at home. That seems actually like a good coronavirus project for me. Smoking some salmon. Salmon, as some people call it. Thanks to Lambo and Jack Attack, as well as Sudden Echo for the Twitch subscription. Sudden Echo says, I've been looking into Southern strategy. Out of curiosity, is there any merit to the idea? Well, I don't know what you mean by merit. I mean, it's a real thing, and it's a way to appeal to certain voters. Maybe I'll do like a little history of Southern strategy at some point. It's an interesting concept. Scott Forgot says, David, have we become the shithole country now? Basically, yeah. I mean, we are now the disease, the disease-carrying foreigners that other countries don't want. I mean, it's depressing. It's incredibly depressing. But it's the unfortunate reality. Jacob Price says, South Carolina Governor McMaster just announced school will resume in September. Okay. John Coley says, in an attempt to hear both sides, who is David Pakman's conservative equal in terms of intelligence and likability? I have no idea. That would be more for the audience to decide, I think. Thanks to Vacman California for the Twitch Prime subscription. Gregory Shavers Jr. says, you should interview Peter Zayin on your show. Don't know who that is, but I'll check it out. Evan Field says, ladies and gentlemen, propaganda Barbie. I call her evil Christian Barbie. I find that more precise. Per Tiran says, I say as Monty Python, get on with it. Wow. Yaron Neitzel says, amazing adventures await you. Do your part. Hit the like button. JR says, CNN piece was on April 14th, 2014. Kansas suspect. Okay, yeah, I want to find my old CNN appearance to play for people, and I will do that. Nasty Question says, I want to hear your... Whoa, that just scrolled away. Where did that go? Nasty Questions said, I want to hear your commentary. Continue to interject, please. I will. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Anders Foster says, I know it's a little late, but do you have any thoughts on the Dave Chappelle 846 special? I didn't see it. I barely watch any stand-up comedy, And especially lately, I've just had such little time to watch anything. Millicent says, is this going to be another emergency campaign speech like the other day? Give us back info from the CDC. I don't know what to expect. Yeah, this was supposedly a really important press briefing scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern. They rescheduled it for 2 p.m. Eastern. It's now 2:30 p.m. Eastern. No respect for the press. No respect for the audience. No respect for the American people. It's just no respect. It's unbelievable. And we may, now that we have a wider shot, we may still have a ways to go. The room is not totally full yet with reporters, even accounting for the chairs that are blocked off. Urgent that this take place, urgent that they speak truth to power to the American people. They're running an hour and a half behind, but it's urgent. Don't forget, very, very urgent. Thanks to Michael for the super chat. Suffragium says, the only way I can listen to these press conferences is through your stream. Keep up the great coverage. Oh, speaking of which, I saw somebody mention Jimmy from Philly. There's this furious Trumpist who just leaves message after message after message. He called in again recently, and I know some of you have been asking whether he's okay. I'll just because we have a little time, I'll play a couple of these voicemails from you. Oh, too late. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. This afternoon, President Trump will deliver remarks on rolling back regulations to help all Americans. Deregulation has been a top priority of this president. It's already genius. The president reversed the disastrous overregulation of the Obama-Biden administration.
Give us the list
Under
of
President Trump, 7 deregulatory actions have been taken for every 1 new regulation.
It used to be 2 to 1.
This amounted to $50 billion in regulatory cost savings. And it is important to note that this deregulation agenda lowers the cost for every American.
That was
the cost
all
of these burdensome regulations fall disproportionately and benefit disproportionately lower income Americans.
Wrong.
So this president took action to roll back the burdensome regulations that harm low income communities.
Remember, deregulation disproportionately hurts low income communities who are downwind from pollution, et cetera. I'm sure you know.
Deregulatory agenda will boost household income by $3,100 annually.
No way.
Thanks to President Trump's rolling back of the Obama-Biden era cafe standards, families will have access to cheaper cars. The president's healthcare deregulation will also save patients nearly 10% on prescription drug costs. These real wins for the American people will disappear with a re-regulation agenda, which is why President Trump will continue to pursue his historic deregulation activity. On another note, we saw encouraging news yesterday on vaccines. Moderna's vaccine candidate is showing promising signs. It produced a positive, neutral immune response among the 45 participants.
Remember, this is great news, but it has nothing to do with Trump, like zero to do with Trump.
And the bottom line is that so far we are seeing exactly what you would hope to see in a vaccine. They're expected, the Moderna vaccine in particular, is expected to reach phase 3 by late July with 30,000 participants. And finally, on the therapeutics front, I just want to note a very encouraging Regeneron contract, a $450 million contract for monoclonal antibody cocktail.
Fantastic, has nothing to do with Trump either.
Of convalescent plasma, one of the several therapeutics available to treat COVID, can be used for prophylaxis and treatment, and they say they could have up to 70 to 300,000 vials of this by the end of the summer or early fall. So Operation Warp Speed continues. We continue to see.
None of this has anything to do with Operation Warp Speed. Please don't forget that.
Thank you, Kayleigh. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan said today that President Trump has left states to fend for themselves during this pandemic. He accused the president of not listening to medical experts. That is quite a takedown coming from a Republican governor.
Yeah, it's really striking, his comments, especially when you compare them to his past comments. This is revisionist history by Governor Hogan, and it stands in stark contrast.
The revisionist history is that Trump handled this properly in January.
Communication that the president has had with governors. On March 19th, he also said, thank you. There's been tremendous cooperation. And what is so striking to me about reading that op-ed is that Governor Hogan begins with this dramatic April 18th scene where South Korea delivered tests. But just the day prior, he said something entirely different. He, in fact, thanked the president for the progress we've seen in federal and state coordination in recent weeks, and went on to praise
Anybody else sick of the performative nature of these events?
Of states, including ventilators and testing capabilities. So 24 hours before this dramatic opening scene of his op-ed, he literally was praising the president of the United States for delivering on testing.
And how do you explain that President Trump is trailing his opponent by double digits both nationally and in battleground states, with majorities disapproving of his handling of race relations and the coronavirus response?
So that would be a question for the campaign when it comes to campaign polling. But what I would say is we believe this president has great approval in this country. His historic COVID response speaks for itself, with delivering on ventilators and testing, leading the world, and the amount of testing we've provided, therapeutics, the 13 vaccine candidates, the Moderna.
The 13 vaccine candidates have nothing to do with Trump. That's really eventually we're going to get a cure of a vaccine, eventually, right? The question is, have Trump accelerated it, slowed it down, or done nothing?
Yes.
Kayleigh, we've seen the president hold a range of public events this week, but none of those events have been focused on the coronavirus. Why not?
The president's routinely focused on the coronavirus. I think you'll be hearing more about what we're doing in the coming week. He's hard at work. We talk about COVID every day from this podium. The task force is hard at work, and I'm glad you asked about COVID in particular.
She has
I just
a page there.
Read through some of the things that we are doing, which I think is most important than what we're saying is what we're doing. And the White House has engaged in travel, Dr. Birx, to Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and
Can you imagine? The way we're dealing with coronavirus is by flying a doctor all around the country, an individual doctor.
Tomorrow, HHS has deployed 19 teams across the country. We identify not where we see embers, but that. We identify where we might see an emergence, and we send teams there to address it in advance. So we're proactive. Dr. Birx routine.
Are they calling Florida embers? It's like every day they're setting a case and death record.
It's on remdesivir. We've surged it to Texas, Florida, California, Arizona. 65,000 vials went to these 4 states, and we're also surging testing sites. So we're doing stuff each and every day.
But Kayleigh, surely you would agree this is the biggest challenge facing the public right now. Why aren't we seeing it as the president's biggest public priority?
The president's focusing on a lot.
It's
Look,
bad?
The president just yesterday held a big press conference, if you will, or an unveil in the Oval Office about MS-13. COVID is something that we're focused on. It is a top priority of this administration.
How many people did MS-13 kill versus how many people did coronavirus kill?
But there are other things the president has to focus on, namely Democrat cities not controlling their streets, namely the mayor of Chicago, people dying on the streets of her city every weekend, and the president sent her a letter saying you must secure your city. The president's involved in Operation Legend in honor of Legend Taliaferro, a young man who...
I don't think this is resonating. I think the public knows what the issues are, and that's the reason Trump's losing by double digits. I don't think her coming out and saying MS-13 is actually going to redirect people's attention.
He killed those 2 young little girls, and he's held their killer accountable, the leader of that ring. So the president's focused on COVID. It's a top priority. He's focused on the violence in the streets. He's doing a lot of things at once, and that's the great thing about the Trump administration.
Quickly, when's the last time he attended a task force briefing?
The president is briefed on coronavirus each and every day. Yes, Darlene.
Thank you. Does the White House agree that it's not helpful for people to wait 7 days or longer to get the results of their coronavirus tests? And is the White House going to do anything to try to shorten those wait times so that people can get their results sooner?
So we've done more than any country in the world on testing.
The question is, what can you do to shorten wait times from 7 days? 7 days, even in Massachusetts where we're doing well, 5 to 7 days before you know your results.
Longer to process than others, but we have surged testing to the states. We encourage them to use it to their best ability and to process those tests as quickly as possible. Yes,
Thank you. To follow up on that, it's not just about the quantity of testing, it's about the quality of testing. So is the administration doing anything specifically to make all the tests out there return quicker results?
Of course
because,
we are.
you know, a lot of health experts are worried that when people have to wait 7 days or longer, they're out here spreading the disease unknowingly.
So as I noted, there are several different types of tests. There's the Abbott rapid response test. There are other tests that take longer. Dr. Birx and Admiral Joie are constantly out there advising on testing and how to process these tests.
Remember, of course, the trick is the machine might take 15 minutes to give you the results from one test, but you could have a 7-day backlog because you can only do 4 tests an hour per machine. Very, very deceptive. But it's cheap deception. We can see through it.
52 sites testing in America in 48 states and the District of Columbia. 65% of these sites are located in counties with moderate to high social vulnerability, and 201 additional sites will be going live this week, and that's on top of the 1,300 federally qualified.
It feels like we're back in March, where they talk about the number of testing sites versus the number of tests that can actually be processed.
President Trump said more white people are killed as an answer to why black people are still being killed by police officers. But by population percentages, black people are about 3 times more likely than white people to die in a police encounter. If the president won't even acknowledge that, how can he fix the problem?
Oh, he won't. He's not going to.
The president has routinely acknowledged and expressed the absolute atrocity of the case of George Floyd, and his heart goes out to that family still. He was noting a fact that there were, when you look at unarmed killings with police interactions in this country, that you had 9 unarmed black individuals who were fatally shot and 19 unarmed white individuals. That's down from 38 and 32 respectively in 2015. So the numbers have actually come down since the Obama administration. He was making that point, but one point he wants to strongly make is this, that black men and women who die of homicide, they are likely to die of homicide at 8 times greater than that of white individuals and Hispanics combined. That's the rate combined. So that's an extraordinary thing that we want to look at. I've listed for you the names of these kids who have died across this country. It is unacceptable, and under this president, he'll take action, and the derelict mayor of Chicago should step up and ask for federal help because she's doing a very poor job at securing her
Total
streets.
distraction.
About people who are dying at the hands of police officers.
Is the president considering travel bans for members of the Communist Party to enter the U.S.? And is he concerned about escalation of tensions with China?
So I have no announcements on that front, but rest assured we keep every option on the table with regard to China.
Has he ruled out any options at all?
He's not ruled out any options with regard to China. Yes. Jeff.
Thanks, Kayleigh. Does the White House have a reaction to the hacking of Twitter last night? And do you have any broader concerns, or does the president have any broader concerns about using that platform to issue not only his own opinions, but official policy pronouncements, given its apparent vulnerability to hacking?
Right.
Yeah, so I spoke with Dan Scavino before coming out here. My team did. And
Dan Scavino, who tweeted a meme of Dr. Fauci as Dr. Faucet.
18 hours to keep Twitter secure, the president's Twitter feed. The president will remain on Twitter, but his account was secure and not jeopardized during these attacks.
Okay, and just one follow-up to Luigi's question. I guess I didn't follow the data that you were just referring to. Are you saying that the president did have data to back up his claim that more white people are killed by police officers than black people?
Yeah, and I've already read out that data to you.
I don't think we followed it.
I've already read out that data to you, and you can go fact check on the
Sorry, Jeff, you're not smart enough to understand her facts.
Congressman Steve Watkins of Kansas has been charged with 3 felonies in a voter fraud case. Obviously, the president campaigned with him in 2018, and he's repeatedly expressed concern with voter fraud. So does he have a reaction to that?
That's the first I'm hearing of that. I haven't spoken to the president of it. He does have very real concerns about voter fraud.
They're not fake
and he's mentioned several of those. And there's yet more information that there is rampant voter fraud when you have mass mail-in voting.
Not true.
In 2016, as the president has noted, about 1%.
Remember, you have an absentee ballot process, which we want to expand to everybody. They are pretending or believe that absentee ballots and mail-in voting in the U.S. are 2 different things. We're just talking about expanding absentee.
It's out of New Jersey have found a U.S. Postal Service vehicle that may have been carrying mail-in ballots that was caught on fire. This truck.
Their example is that there was an incidental fire of a vehicle. That's the example. Can you imagine?
Republicans received ballots with all Democrat candidates.
That's like saying you shouldn't ship vials of blood to be tested because once a FedEx vehicle caught on fire. It's like, that's not about the integrity of the samples. There was a fire.
To dog catcher, and these were supposed to be Republican ballots. Those are 3 recent examples, and there are many more.
A quick second question, Kayleigh. When the president made the initial decision to move the Republican National Convention from Charlotte to Florida, he said that it was because the North Carolina governor was in a shutdown mood and that he was playing politics because he didn't want to pack an indoor stadium to full capacity. He also said that the cost to North Carolinians would be, and I'm quoting the president now, all of the jobs and the economic development the convention would bring. So all of that money, all of that time, all of that cost to jobs and economic development to North Carolinians for the same result, right? Because they're shrinking the convention in Florida. What does the president have to say to North Carolinians?
The president loves the people of North Carolina. They're well aware of that. The president wanted to be able to hold his convention, which is why it was moved to Jacksonville. And for anything further, I'd refer you to the RNC. Yes.
Thank you, Kayleigh. The president has talked about an executive order on immigration coming soon. He's also talked about protections for Daca recipients. It's been unclear, though, whether those protections, the path to citizenship that the president talked about, will be included in the executive order. So I was hoping you could clarify. Will the path to citizenship protections for DACA be part of the executive order?
So what I would say is this: as the president announced, he's working on an executive order to establish a merit-based immigration system. That will be the intent of the executive order. But the president has long said that he would look for a legislative solution on DACA, and he would work with Congress to pursue.
You got 3.5 months, my friend.
And one that could include citizenship, along with other strong border security and permanent merit-based reforms. So that is something he would work with Congress on. Yeah, and the executive order would pertain to the merit-based portion of that.
A second question on the schools. The vice president talked about some of the new guidelines or new pages of documents for CDC coming out this week. Is that still the plan? Are those going to come out this week? Is there any chance that this is being rethought at this time?
So those are CDC guidelines you're referencing. So I'll leave it to CDC as to when those guidelines come out. But we really would like.
Is she winding up to a scripted walk-off?
Clear, we don't think our children should be locked up at home with devastating consequences when it's perfectly safe for them to go to school, as emphasized by many medical experts. So the president is very keen on seeing schools reopen. It's the only thing that's fair to America's children. Yes.
Thanks, Kayleigh. Two quick questions for you. On Wednesday, the CDC director said, quote, "If all of us would put on a face covering now for the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I think we could drive this epidemic into the ground." Admiral Giroir has made similar comments. The CDC director called it our, quote, major defense. I'm wondering if the president would consider at any point a nationwide mask mandate.
Well, the president has said that he would wear a mask if he was in a place where he couldn't be appropriately social distanced. He did.
The question is, can Trump come out and say, my fellow Americans, we have an unprecedented crisis on our hands. I need every one of you to take this seriously and wear a mask, right? That's what how many lives would be saved if Trump had done that?
Coverings and the CDC guidelines remain the same today, recommended but not required.
And a quick second question for you. You were saying earlier that the president is very concerned about local officials who are not taking actions about, deaths in their cities. You also said he was appalled by what happened to George Floyd. In March, a 26-year-old black woman named Breonna Taylor was killed while sleeping in her home. The 3 officers involved in that case in Kentucky have not been arrested or fired. Is the president monitoring that case at all, and does he want to see justice for Breonna Taylor?
Yeah, I won't weigh into that other than to say I'd refer you to the DOJ, who takes federal action where necessary, where the facts merit, but our hearts grieve for Breonna Taylor's family.
Thank you. Another question on China. President Trump is the only U.S. president to have stood strong against China, which is of great comfort to countries like India and his other allies in the Asian neighborhood.
Is this guy a right-winger? I feel like his questions are always pretty extreme.
On this, and has he spoken to China, other countries, how to collaborate against China?
Thank you, Lalit. I did see your question earlier, and I brought it to the president, and he said, I love the people of India, and I love the people of China, and I want to do everything possible to keep the peace for the people.
Real political genius, huh?
Thank you.
Yes, a question that flows from 2 events that we saw recently that we wouldn't have seen at previous White Houses. The first was the campaign meeting in the cabinet room last month, and then the political speech in the Rose Garden. Can you talk about your understanding of what the White House policy is for this White House as far as politics? Is there any place in the White House where you think politics is inappropriate mean, where do you draw the line?
We act in accordance with the Hatch Act. It's well established that the president and vice president are not subject to the Hatch Act. It says this much in the Hatch Act. It says that the Hatch Act applies to executive branch employees, which is defined in the Hatch Act as employee, meaning any individual other than the president and the vice president. So his speech in the Rose Garden was entirely appropriate.
The Hatch Act has nothing to do with this, though.
What? It has everything to do with this. Go read the Hatch Act. That's what you're alleging is problematic for the president.
I'm stating
but your real
The
problem
question is any
was
part of the White House sacred where you just are the president and not a candidate?
speech from the Rose Garden. Owen.
Well, you talked about it earlier with school districts, but we're seeing more school districts, at least in Virginia, for example, last night, deciding to go online only. What does the president say to parents out there who are now going, okay, what do I do with my kids?
Yeah, the president has said unmistakably that he wants schools to open, and I was just in the Oval talking to him about that. And when he says open, he means open and full, kids being able to attend each and every day at their...
Kayleigh's walk-off today is going to be making her family's refried bean recipe from some cans of Goya beans.
I thought this was a good quote. Of course we can do it. Everyone else in the Western world, our peer nations, are doing it. We are the outlier here. The science is very clear on this, that, you know, for instance, you look at the JAMA pediatric study of 46 pediatric hospitals in North America that said the risk of critical illness from COVID is far less for children than that of seasonal flu. The science is on our side here, and we encourage for localities and states to just simply follow the science, open our...
All of these people deserve to never work again. When it's all done, like, she should be unhireable anywhere after what she's been doing for this administration.
Address when students are not in school. Our schools are extremely important, they're essential, and they must reopen. Yes.
Thanks, Kayleigh. The U.S., Canada, and the U.K. today accused Russia of trying to hack coronavirus research, vaccine research. I was wondering if the president has a response to Russia to that.
Yes, so the one thing I would say about that, and it was announced earlier today, is that we worked very closely with our allies to ensure that we would take measures to keep that information safe, and we continue to do so, and we're aware of those activities. Yes, Chanel.
Thanks, Kayleigh. On the CDC, on the movement of data going straight from CDC to
They've
HHS
got her now behind the photographer.
Understanding that HHS needs access to real-time data, was there also any concern whatsoever undergirding this decision regarding CDC's possible manipulation of data? There were some reports coming out of Florida. Certain states were coming out and saying mid-level CDC reports were not necessarily
I would
accurate. And so was that,
sitting back here
did
in
that
this
have
room.
any effect in this decision to send data straight to HHS?
No, the intent for this decision, and I talked extensively today with Dr. Birx, with Secretary Azar, and with Dr. Redfield about this. The intent of this is we need to make sure that there is daily data that is being given to Dr. Birx and others who are running point on a lot of our actions with remdesivir. And
Don't worry, guys. Dr. Birx now will decide what data gets published. It's going to be fine.
In the press, that there are two methods of data collection. The one is the National Healthcare Safety Network, and this is a CDC system, and this is where hospitals voluntarily report their data, and about 81% of hospitals were reporting their data. So we don't need 81% of hospitals reporting data. We need 100% of hospitals reporting data, because it is critical that Dr. Birx and others receive the daily admissions, ICU use, and PPE numbers. And when you're only getting 81% of hospital data, that means you've got 19% of hospitals that were unaware of their needs. So what happened is we also have a second method of tracking this data, and it's the TeleTracker database, and this is an HHS system. And this was initially used for purposes of provider relief funding. And we asked hospitals to tell us about their COVID admissions so that we could identify possible hotspots. And as it turns out, this data ended up being more complete, more up to date with information. And so ensuring that hospitals are reporting into this system where we're getting more complete data was the reason that HHS...
And with that, I'll leave you to think about how you've been very bad boys and girls today.
reporting to the teletracker system. It's important, especially with remdesivir distribution, that we know exactly where the needs are so we can surge them. So this...
Still have access to this data.
Yes, that's right. So I did confirm that with Dr. Redfield, that this is completely open source data available to the CDC. Secretary Azar says we insist that they use it, and no one, and Dr. Redfield confirmed this, no one is taking access or data away from the CDC, and that data is routinely published so that the American people are
I
fully
believe it,
informed.
sure, yeah.
Yes.
So I wanted to follow on that briefly. There's been some complaints, particularly among independent modelers who are using the CDC data that was updated daily to sort of put out their public models, some of which the White House has relied on, that now those dashboards have been taken down. So I'm wondering if the administration would sort of commit to making the broader database a bit more available to the public.
The CDC database is the public data that's been out there.
Right.
It'll continue to be public. It should be public. And this is all about getting more data out there, not less data, and ensuring in particular that our doctors get that daily data. And one thing that I'd also like to point out for everyone is just with regard to testing, we've done more than 42 million
This is
tests,
the
as I
walk-off,
noted.
right?
The second highest number is 12 million from India. We're leading the world in testing, and it's a very stark contrast, and the president mentioned this yesterday, so I just wanted to put some additional information out there. It was actually CBS reporting that in 2009, under Obama-Biden, quote, and this is CBS reporting, CDC abruptly advised states to stop testing for H1N1 flu and stop counting individual cases. So while this president surged testing under the Obama administration,
I'm going to explain
they
this. I
stopped
don't want to
testing
interrupt this.
entirely. And Ron Klain, Vice President Biden's former chief of staff, said this: "It is purely a fortuity that H1N1 isn't one of the great mass casualty events in American history. It had nothing to do with us doing anything right." This is former VP Biden's chief of staff. It just had to do with luck. Contrary to that, this president led the world in testing, led the world in ventilators, redistributing ventilators, 4 therapeutics, 13 vaccine candidates, 1 going into phase 3 clinical trial. This response has been extraordinary and historic. We didn't pause testing. The Obama-Biden administration did, and that was a shameful decision. Thank you.
There's the walk-off. So let me explain that they're now picking up on this H1N1 thing. So what they're saying now is Obama and Biden stopped testing for H1N1. Understand that H1N1 ended up being not very deadly and so widespread that there was no point in testing for it, in the sense that it was being treated like the flu. People started being given Tamiflu when they tested positive early. There was no reason to test because you weren't dealing with it any differently than the seasonal flu of that year. In fact, I remember I was in Argentina at the time. My brother got H1N1 at the time when they were still testing, and then other people in our family got sick. Testing, there was no point to testing at a certain point because it had just gone completely. But what she's essentially saying is that they are almost saying it doesn't really matter if we test because we're conceding everybody's going to get coronavirus, at which point you would have 3 to 4 million deaths. It says if that's actually what they're conceding. And as people are pointing out, I'm being conservative, but some people are saying H1N1 was less deadly than the flu. It was just very contagious. There was a very specific reason why they stopped testing for H1N1. Once it was determined that there was no real use to testing to distinguish it from the flu, the treatment was the same. It's just, it's a spare tires to chicken thighs comparison. Like, it's just a ridiculous comparison in total. Okay, what else did I have? There was something else though that I wanted to mention. Yeah, nothing particularly urgent about that. I think that you would all very much agree. Okay, over on Twitch, I am going to take people's advice, and we are going to raid Hassan. Okay, I'm going to be rapping here, but we are going to raid Hassan. So please join my raid. We have not done any raiding over on Twitch for a while. My next chess coaching session, I believe, is Monday. I believe that that's going to be Monday. All right, so let's go ahead and do it. Thanks to everybody who tuned in today. We'll be back with more, I am sure, very soon. And on your way out, if you're leaving over on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. If you're leaving on Twitch, hit that follow button. It's very much appreciated.